Okay, so I'm hoping this is going to be a real quick one, but just finished episode 6? Yes, episode 6 of Yellowjackets, and it was a great episode. We did find out that, yes, Taisha is in this fugue psychological amnesia state, and that she, even back when they were in the wilderness, was, I'm guessing because she was hungry at night, waking up and eating dirt. And I'm guessing that's what was keeping her fed and getting her some of those nutrients. And, you know, when she has been hooking up with Van, and that Van noticed that her fingernails were all dirty, and that's because she's at night eating dirt. But we do find out that she is also now having a psychological moment, and she is out in the window, like her son was saying, the lady in the tree, you're the good one. Okay, yes, picked up on that. Also noticing colors. She is the green. There's always green with hers. And green can symbolize life. It can symbolize being close to the earth. It can symbolize things of that nature. But green also can symbolize decay. And so I was definitely thinking like, all right, she has all this green. Her psychological state is decaying. She is on the decline as far as that goes. We also see that Shauna and I think his name is Jeff go to Jackie's parents. They do this whole anniversary thing. It's awful. Shauna has been having visions of seeing Jackie. And there's this reoccurring question of, why are you here? Why are you here? And I'm not sure if that's a existential question about why are you present on this earth, or literal, why are you here in this space doing this thing? But I did really enjoy Jeff stood up for Shauna and was saying, okay, because Jackie's parents are Jackie was precious and she was perfect. But Jeff was like, we were hooking up before. I was cheating on Jackie with Shauna and we didn't make the best decisions, but this is my wife and I'm happy to be with her. She is really smart. So I was like, that's nice, even though she is still cheating on him with the Adam guy, who Adam is very pressed. I still don't trust Adam. I think he's up to something. I think there's something going on there. Miss Misty is crazy. I know we're not supposed to use that term, but she is not mentally sound. She has drugged the reporter and drugged her, because I was just like, because we see her stealing pills, then we see her grinding up the pills while she's watching Natalie have sex with Kevin Tan. And she's just watching, having her a great little time, grinding up her drugs. And then we see her call the detective, and now, or not the detective, the journalist. And now she's got the journalist, because I was looking and I was like, that looks like a bunker or something. What's she doing down there? When I tell y'all she had vibes in that first episode, it looks like the type she goes on dates and she takes you home and she kills you and puts you inside of her freezer. Guess who got a bunker in the basement where she could put people? Okay, Miss Misty is a little, but Miss Misty has always been off, it seems like. Because even they went on this whole like, I have a secret boyfriend too. Girl, no you don't. What is going on? Speaking of which, because back in the wilderness, Miss Nat and Travis have been, you know, starting to hook up. There's this whole thing about how he has issues, some performance anxiety, as far as like just feeling really nervous because Travis is a virgin, and they go through this whole thing about, you know, he wants to know how many people she slept with. She doesn't want to tell him. She's like, I shouldn't have to. It shouldn't matter, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, I haven't slept with anybody. And so, you know, like they have their whole little thing. They find, though, a deer. Oh, gosh. We'll get to Miss Ma'am in a second. They find a deer and they go to get it, which I was like, because everyone's always talking about how they're starving. And I'm like, yeah, like every time y'all are supposed to be out hunting, all y'all are doing is trying to hook up inside of this plane. Like, can you go find some food? Why are y'all hooking up? You need food. So Lottie apparently has visions. She's always had visions. She's catastrophic events before they're supposed to happen. And she's been having her visions there because she's not on her medication, right? We've been noticing she didn't have her medication to take. Well, now she's like talking to Laura Lee, which I'm like, I still feel like Laura Lee's starting to go off the deep end a little bit, but she was one of the only ones who has some sense with this whole seance thing. And she's like, well, Laura Lee, you know, what about visions and stuff like that? And Laura Lee's like, oh, well, you know, the prophets and the faith and it's a sign from God and all this other stuff. So then I'm like, oh, she's about to baptize this hoe, because she's like, well, I want to welcome Jesus into my life. And so Laura Lee's like, I got an idea. And I was like, girl, don't let this random person baptize you. But she does. So Laura Lee goes to baptize her. And Lottie has this whole vision thing where she is underground in some tunnels following a stag, right? And there's the stag. So there's seems to be three animals that have been most prevalent in this show, and that has been the stag, it has been the rabbit, and it has been a wolf. And so those have been like the three that we see most often. The wolf is associated with Taisha, the rabbit is with Shauna, the stag is with Lottie, but I'm really thinking it's going to be with Natalie. Now, what animal represents Miss Misty? Who knows? Cuckoo. I also need to look up about symbolism or like the meaning or behaviors of Yellowjackets. I'm trying to remember if those are the ones that people are just like, if you get Yellowjackets, like get rid of them because they're terrible and they like bully bees and all this other stuff, or is that if that's wasp? I don't remember. But yeah. Lottie is on the whole stag thing. She's been seeing stags. She's been having visions with stags. She sees the one, which was a real stag, but maybe not real in her vision, in the continuation of it. I'm not entirely too sure, but she sees stag with like bloody, I guess, flesh on its horns. And so then we see that when Nat and Travis are hooking up inside of the airplane, that they run across this stag. And so they kill it and they bring it back. But, you know, it's got all that gross stuff going on its horns. People are like, I'm not eating that. They go to cut it open, filled with maggots. So again, we're going back to that whole like green imagery of decay, of deterioration, of falling apart psychologically. But not only that, but these people are hungry and they're starting to really like lose it. So Lottie, like I was saying, got baptized. She's underground in the tunnels, sees the stag, follows the stag to where there's some candles and it's up a stair. It looks like kind of an altar. And then she goes and she lights a long match, lights a candle, big flame. And then she sees the fire. She sees the stag. She comes back because she's still being baptized. So I'm guessing this is hopefully in a short period of time. Because I was like, girl, you gonna let her up? Because she can't be underwater that long. But she comes back up and then Laura Lee turns into like a framed in light and she starts screaming. And so then Laura Lee's like, oh, you saw the Holy Spirit. You saw the Holy Spirit. You've been touched. You've been blessed. I don't know if Lottie has been blessed. I think that's a complicated conversation to have because it's so interesting to see because Lottie has vision. She's got a whole thing going on, but so does Taisha. Taisha has a thing. And I'm not sure whether these are like actual psychological things, if these are spiritual gifts, as you would like to say. But I'm curious to see where this goes, especially since now Laura Lee, after having baptized Lottie and Lottie being on the whole, I want to welcome Jesus into my heart, that Lottie is now fully team spirituality, visions, all this other stuff. And so I'm like, I think this is definitely moving towards what's going to be the split in the groups between the folks who are, we just have to survive and get out of here, and the folks who believe in this whole supernatural thing that's going on. I do think people are going to continue to switch sides, and I do think this will be more complicated. But I mean, if we look even at from a spiritual stance, the stag, that is a symbol of masculine energy. It's a symbol of the green man, which is a thing where this is kind of like the energy of the forest. It was the hunter. It was the energy of renewal. Oh, and there's definitely a whole death and rebirth narrative going on here. Not as clearly stated as in some movies and things that we've seen, but we have, because, Shauna is pregnant, Shauna decides to try to have an abortion with a wire from a bra, and Taisha finds her and she's like, I'm going to help you. You're not going to do this alone. But they don't go through with it because, hello, yes. Like, girl, you could die out here. There is no hospital. There is no 911. There is nothing. There's no painkillers. There's literally nothing here to help you. There's no antiseptic. Like, there's literally nothing to keep you from getting an infection or something like that. Like, this is, being pregnant is dangerous, having a child is dangerous, but trying to self-abort is super dangerous in this environment. So they did not go through that, but it coincides with the scene with Lottie and her baptism. So, baptism is a rebirth process, okay? Dying of the old you, being reborn, through Christ, okay? Is symbolic of that transition. Well, even in this case, we had like cutting that with the scenes of them trying to have the abortion for the child, for the baby that Shauna is carrying, is giving that rebirth, life cycles and things like that. And the stag is also symbolic of that, because the green man, who was sometimes symbolized by a stag, was someone who symbolized the energy of renewal within nature, because nature goes through these natural cycles, which is now starting to come up in the conversation about, once we head towards winter, what are we going to do, because there's no food. And they're obviously heading towards winter. So when we have this kind of masculine energy of the stag coming in, leading her to something, because I'm like, girl, what is the use of your visions if it does not get us out of here? Like, I don't understand how this is supposed to be helpful for us in any way, shape, or form. If old stag ain't leading you to a rescue, I need you to just take a walk or something. This is not helpful. So I'm curious to see where that will go. Old school pagan rites would have had a sacrifice to the forest gods in order to have renewal and to get food and to make it through the winter and the cold months and to see yourselves over into the spring of the rebirth. So, I mean, it does kind of go hand in hand, and I always am thoughtful that it is good to be mindful of old ways, because, having traditions about kings and such would usually coincide with sacrifice. So, Lottie's on her whole needing blood, and it's requesting blood, and it requires blood. And I just think she might really be going towards that whole, we got to do some type of sacrifice to appease the old ways, the old gods that are popping up here. Still don't have any understanding of what that symbol is for. So anyways, that was this last episode. My thoughts for the next one. I know that Taisha is trying to go on her little journey. She's trying to head south and see if she can find something. They're torn again about, if she goes, what should she bring? I feel like she obviously probably doesn't make it out to get help, or maybe she does, and that's how they get rescued. I am uncertain, but I also feel like because of how close Shauna and Taisha and Nat seem to be, that she must come back and need to help them. I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts. I'm unsure about a lot of things. So I guess we'll see. What ends up happening. I do think that we are seeing that there are some folks who do believe that there's some spiritual, otherworldly things going on, and there are others who are just very much no, we're just hungry and we need food. And I think that's becoming more and more clear. I do think that Coach Ben isn't going to make it too much longer. We obviously know that Jackie does not make it, and all these individuals meet their demise seems to be pretty important. Does Javi make it? I don't feel like I see anything about him going forth. So just lots of thoughts. So I'll see what we see in this next one, and we'll go from there. Oh, also, finally, last note. Nat has a lot of black and red going on. There's often a lot of black and red. It's usually a symbol of this being something that's dangerous, something that should be cautionary, a sign to stop or to not go further. But she is pushing and moving forward. Oh, also she sells her Porsche so that she can get the 50K so that they can go and try to figure out what's going on. So, not sure what all is going to go on with that. Let's watch this next episode.